I was a stay-at-home husband, the poor sap who got killed by a truck on his way to buy a late-night snack for his wife. But fate shoved me right back into my junior year dorm room, forcing me to watch her still be completely infatuated with her first love. Even that scumbag Jerry, who had always used me, was still wearing his nice guy scholar mask, plotting to steal the fully funded study abroad program that was rightfully mine. His plan was to use me as a stepping stone to get his credentials overseas and then return to sweep Olivia off her feet. In my past life, they used me, drained me dry, and threw me away, leaving me to die on a cold, hard road. My funeral was a rushed affair, but she found the time to cry on her first love's shoulder, saying, "If you hadn't gone abroad, I never would have married that loser." This time, however, I'm going to push them together myself. I'll die before I let Jerry get that spot abroad, and I'm letting Olivia go from the very start. I'm going to team up with Jenny, build an empire from the ground up, and take back the bright future they stole from me. I'll let them self-destruct until there's nothing left, because I want to see for myself just how noble their so-called love really is without me to prop it up. I died in a car accident on my way to get a late-night snack for my wife. When my spirit drifted home, I found her crying on the shoulder of her first love. "If you hadn't gone abroad back then," she sobbed, "I never would have married that loser. So, in this new life, I'm the one who's going to set them up." But I wonder, if my wife finally gets her wish and marries her first love, will she actually be happy this time? At 10 o'clock at night, I got a call from my wife, Olivia. Her voice was sharp with impatience and dripping with resentment. "Didn't I tell you not to call me unless it's important? Why are you so annoying?" "I just want to know if you're coming home for dinner," I said. I was about to ask where she was so I could go get her, but another man's voice suddenly cut in from her end of the line. "Is that Lucas?" the man asked. "Why didn't you bring him to the reunion today?" Another voice chimed in. "He's been a house husband for so long. What would he even talk about with successful people like us? It would just be embarrassing to have him here." In front of those men, Olivia's tone softened considerably. But the words she spoke were like knives twisting in my heart, each one merciless. "Hey, Lucas," she said, her voice turning cold again. "Jerry is coming over in a bit. Get some snacks heated up for us." She didn't even wait for me to reply before hanging up. The name Jerry exploded in my mind. He was Olivia's first love from college, the one she'd been crazy about. But I thought he was still living overseas. When did he get back? I had just finished setting the heated food on the table when Olivia walked in, laughing and chatting with a colleague. It was Jerry, decked out in designer clothes from head to toe. He glanced around our small apartment as he stepped inside. He shot me a look, his eyes filled with open contempt. Olivia just smiled and said, "It's so good to see you, Jerry. What have you been up to?" She had just told him I was unemployed, but he still put on a show of asking me, clearly trying to humiliate me. Before I could even speak, he sank into the sofa as if he owned the place. "Lucas, what is this stuff you made? You can't pair this with drinks. What were you thinking?" The moment Olivia got home, she had rushed to the bathroom to fix her makeup. When she came out, she glanced at the food on the table and her face soured. "My stomach is sensitive and I have to drink so much for work," she complained, frowning. I had specifically made her a light meal that would be easy on her stomach. "I thought you might have been drinking at the reunion," I explained. Being lectured by my own wife in front of a guest made my face burn with shame. "You can't even get a simple thing like this right," Olivia said, rolling her eyes. "Hurry up and go get some barbecue and beer for Jerry. And make sure you go to Ribs on Route 9. It's the only place he'll eat." "But it's so late, and the roads are icy," I said, rubbing my hands together nervously. "Maybe we could just order something, Ollie." She cut me off, exploding like a firecracker. "Delivery would take at least an hour. Are you expecting us to just sit here and wait? Our time is a lot more valuable than yours, you know? Now get out of here and go buy it." From the couch, Jerry just smirked, a look of pure mockery on his face. I felt like I couldn't breathe in that apartment for another second. I grabbed my scooter keys and bolted out the door. The roads were covered in a treacherous layer of slick ice. The biting wind felt like a knife against my face. We had a car, but Olivia never let me drive it. In fact, I'd barely even been a passenger in it more than a handful of times. I gripped the handlebars, my knuckles white, trying my best to keep the scooter steady on the ice. The barbecue place was a good distance from our apartment complex. I had been riding for a solid 20 minutes before I was finally getting close. Suddenly, my phone started buzzing nonstop. It was a flood of angry, impatient iMessages from Olivia. A wave of panic washed over me, and I instinctively twisted the throttle, trying to go faster. As I rounded a corner, the scooter lost traction and skidded wildly on the ice. A deafening horn blared in my ears, and a blinding white light filled my vision. In the next instant, a massive truck slammed straight into me. The shrill wail of a siren jolted me awake, or so I thought. I sat up, feeling dazed, and saw people in uniforms everywhere. But it was like they couldn't see me at all. "Captain," paramedics said there was nothing they could do. A young officer said quietly, "We should notify the family." I followed his gaze and saw a body covered by a white sheet, lying still in a pool of blood. It was me. I was dead. The reality of it was sudden and jarring, yet suffocatingly real. Olivia's face flashed in my mind. I was just gone. What was she going to do without me? Her career was taking off, but she was still so scatterbrained. She was always leaving important contracts and documents at home, and I always had to be the one to bring them to her. She was an incredibly picky eater, with only a handful of foods she'd even touch. It took me so much effort just to get her to put on a little weight. And she was never good at the social side of business, managing client gifts and networking. I was the one who handled all of that for her. Would she even remember to do any of it now? And this year, we had just started planning to have a baby. As these thoughts flooded my mind, an overwhelming wave of grief washed over me. But in this strange, ethereal state, I couldn't even cry. All I could think about, was seeing her one last time. The woman I had loved for more than 10 years. As a spirit, I could move with incredible speed. In the blink of an eye, I was back in our apartment. A warm, yellow floor lamp cast a soft glow on the home I had so carefully put together, making it look cozy and inviting. What is taking Lucas so long? He's so slow. Olivia grumbled impatiently. "What's the rush?" Jerry said, deliberately scooting closer to her on the couch. "Isn't it nice with just the two of us here?" A faint blush crept up Olivia's cheeks, but she made a show of casually pushing him away. "I'm a married woman, you know. Behave yourself." "Olivia, my heart just aches for you," Jerry said, his voice dripping with fake sincerity. "All I want is for you to be happy." His words made my stomach turn. But his words seemed to strike a chord with Olivia. Her eyes welled up with tears, her face a mask of misery. "How could I ever be happy without you?" she cried. "If you hadn't insisted on going abroad, I never would have married that loser, Lucas. Do you have any idea how miserable it's been, living all these years with a man I don't even love?" Jerry pulled her into his arms to comfort her. They looked like a pair of star-crossed lovers, finally reunited after years of hardship. A furious rage burned in my chest. I floated between them, trying with all my might to pry them apart, but my hands just passed straight through their bodies. They only embraced more tightly. The sharp ring of a telephone shattered the moment. Olivia sat up, annoyed. Without even looking at the caller ID, she snapped into the phone. "Lucas, you useless idiot. What's taking so long with the food? If you're not back soon, you might as well just drop dead out there for all I care." There was a pause on the other end of the line before a stranger's voice finally spoke. "Ma'am, is this Olivia Carter? This is the sheriff's department. Your husband, Lucas Miller, was involved in a serious traffic accident near Ribs on Route 9. He was pronounced dead at the scene. We need you to come down to identify the body. We're very sorry for your loss." Olivia froze. I stared at her face, searching desperately for any sign of grief, any flicker of sadness. After a long moment, she simply gave a flat reply. "I understand." Jerry took her hand, his face a picture of concern. "What is it?" he asked. She leaned back against his chest, and I could see it on her face, a faint but unmistakable look of relief. "It's nothing, really," she said. "Lucas was in an accident." "Is it serious? Do you need to go?" "He's dead. It's late, and it's freezing out. I don't want to go anywhere. We can deal with it tomorrow." Hearing that, an icy rage surged through me, from my feet to the crown of my head. I had spent my entire life loving her with everything I had, and this was her reaction to my death. Cold, heartless indifference. She seemed almost eager to use it as an excuse to get back together with her old boyfriend. No, it was more than that. She had never gotten over Jerry. In all our years together, she had never truly loved me at all. I was going insane. My ghostly form felt like it was being torn apart by pure rage. I let out a silent, soul-shattering scream, and the lights in the apartment began to flicker violently. "Hey, pal, you need to calm down," a voice said from behind me. "We can't take souls with this much resentment. Keep this up, and you'll just fade away into nothing." I felt a hand on my shoulder, and a strange sense of calm washed over me, quieting the storm of my emotions. I turned around to see a pale young man standing behind me. "It's your lucky day you ran into me," he said. "I can give you a chance to do it all over again. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. But once you've had your fill, you'll have to pay the price." He leaned in and whispered in my ear. "So what do you say? Want to play? The cost is steep." "I don't have to think about it," I said, clenching my fists, my spirit burning with hatred and injustice. "I'm in." Why should that despicable pair, Olivia and Jerry, get to live their happy lives while I fade into nothingness? I refused to accept it. I would not just disappear without a fight. I needed to see if Olivia could maintain her comfortable lifestyle without me. I needed to see if their so-called passionate love could survive without me as its foundation. When I opened my eyes, I was lying in my old college dorm bed. The clock on the wall read 11 p.m. It was well past lights out, but the room was filled with shouting. "Olivia, would you just give her a rest?" a voice yelled. "I told you, that girl was the one hitting on me. I ignored her. You think you're some kind of princess? I've had enough of this. Just calm down and stop being so pathetic." It was Jerry. I recognized his voice instantly. This had to be my junior year. During freshman orientation, he'd played guitar for a crowd, and Olivia had been instantly captivated. It was love at first sight for her, and she pursued him with a relentless, almost crazy intensity. But Jerry was never the type to be tied down. He just strung her along, never committing, never breaking off, just keeping her in a state of romantic limbo. It wasn't until the spring semester of our sophomore year that he finally, reluctantly, agreed to date her, probably because he'd grown bored of the chase. But even after they were officially a couple, it didn't stop Jerry from hitting on other girls. They fought constantly, a small argument every few days, a huge blow-up at least once a week. Every time, Olivia would scream that she was breaking up with him, but it never lasted more than a day or two before she would go crawling back to him in tears. Jerry was my roommate, so every time they had a fight, she would come to me, crying, and pour out all her frustrations. In my past life, I fell for her damsel in distress act. I was fooled by what I thought was genuine love on her part. And after a while, I started to fall for her. I used to silently curse Jerry for not appreciating what a great girl he had. But looking back now, I realized she was probably just using me to make Jerry jealous. Once she realized I had feelings for her, she must have decided it wasn't a bad idea to have a devoted backup boyfriend. So she pretended to be oblivious, all while soaking up my attention and affection. She started using the same manipulative mind games on me that Jerry used on her, and she became frighteningly good at them. The thought of it made my teeth ache with anger. I hated myself for being so blind in my past life, for letting those two play me for a complete fool. "Jerry, do you know what time it is?" Our dorm RA, Alex, finally piped up. "Keep it down, will you? Have some consideration." In my past life, I was the kind of guy who would let people walk all over him without saying a word. But Alex had never been one to mince words. "I'm not the only one making noise," Jerry shot back, clearly embarrassed but too stubborn to admit it. "Why isn't anyone else complaining?" He turned to me. "Lucas, am I bothering you?" I looked him straight in the eye. "If you're going to fight, take it outside. You're not the only one who lives here. Nobody here is obligated to put up with your drama," I said coldly, not giving him an inch. Jerry was taken aback by my tone. He just stared at me for a moment, speechless. I ignored him and pulled the covers over my head, completely missing the thoughtful look Alex shot in my direction. The next morning, just as I'd expected, Olivia was waiting outside the guys' dorm. When she saw our group coming out, she made a point of walking right up to me, in full view of Jerry, and tried to take my arm. I sidestepped her, easily avoiding her grasp. She looked surprised but tried again, reaching for my hand. This time, I pushed her hand away and took a couple of steps back, putting some space between us. "Olivia," I said, my voice low but firm, "if I'm not mistaken, you have a boyfriend. So please, stop bothering me. Have a little self-respect." I didn't speak loudly, but my words carried in the morning air. Several people turned to stare at her. Her face flushed a deep crimson. "Lucas, you'll regret this," she yelled, before turning and running away. Regret it? I wasn't the one who was going to have regrets. I came back to this life for one reason: to make that perfect couple regret every single thing they ever did to me. After getting away from Olivia, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I was so relieved, I even ate an extra helping at lunch. Not long after lunch, our academic advisor called both me and Alex in his office. "There are only 2 spots in the fully funded exchange program this year," he said, "and based on your grades, they go to you too. Just fill out these forms and get them back to me." That's right. In my past life, that spot should have been mine, not Jerry's. Olivia wasn't even in our department. She always thought Jerry was some kind of genius, but the truth was his mediocre grades were propped up by copying my homework and cheating on exams. There was no way he could have qualified for that program on his own merits. But in my past life, he used Olivia as an excuse. He claimed they had broken up and that seeing her on campus every day would be too painful for her. He also played on the fact that he knew I had a crush on her, telling me that if he were gone, she would eventually fall for me. I was so blinded by my crush that I actually believed him. I went to the advisor myself and practically begged him to give my spot to Jerry instead. After Jerry left, Olivia and I did end up together, but she was always cold and distant. Then, after we were married, she somehow found out that I had been the one to give up my spot for him. She became convinced that I had done it on purpose to break them up. From that day forward, she never treated me with anything but contempt. This time around, I already had a plan. I honestly didn't want to go abroad, but I would give a spot to a stray dog before I'd let Jerry have it. "Lucas, have you decided if you're going to take the study abroad offer?" As soon as I stepped out of the office, a girl named Jenny stopped me. I was a little surprised, but I answered her honestly. "No, I'm not planning on it. I've got other things I need to do here." "Oh, really?" She looked visibly relieved. "That's perfect, actually. I'm starting a business, and I was wondering if you'd want to join me." I suddenly remembered from my past life that Jenny had started her own company while still in school. Her family was well off, and she was incredibly sharp and capable. She had a knack for spotting trends, and her company grew exponentially. Not long after graduation, she was already financially independent. In my past life, though, she had never asked me to be a part of it. I wonder what had changed. "I'd be honored to be considered, Jenny," I said. "But can I ask why you're asking me?" Jenny smiled and clapped me on the shoulder. "I've always thought you were brilliant, Lucas. I just used to think you were a bit of a pushover, letting a guy like Jerry lead you around. But it looks like you've finally wised up," she continued. "So, of course, I had to snatch you up before someone else did." We looked at each other and both started to laugh. "So, about that study abroad spot," Jenny began, then hesitated, a little apprehension in her voice. "Don't worry, Jenny," I said, my voice firm. "I know exactly what I'm doing." My resolve hardened. In my past life, because of Jerry, I'd lost my chance to go abroad, and Alex had never approached me about going into business. Fortunately, I had the skills and the people smarts to make it on my own. I started by taking on small freelance projects, building my way up one job at a time. Slowly, I built a base of loyal clients. Olivia had expensive tastes and no desire to hold down a regular job, so all the financial pressure fell on me. I practically lived in my office, working day and night to pay for her endless demands. By the time my freelance business had finally grown into a small company, my health was completely shot. It was only when I had lost a frightening amount of weight that Olivia offered to help me run the company. Before that, she hadn't so much as brought me a cup of coffee. The illness hit me hard and fast, and I struggled to get better. My recovery was painfully slow. During that time, Olivia suggested we get married. The company, of course, became our joint asset. But then she started using my poor health against me. Citing my fragile condition, she slowly pushed me out of my own company. Eventually, I became a full-time stay-at-home dad, while she transformed herself into a high-flying, powerful businesswoman. I remembered the words of that pale-faced man from before I was reborn. "I can give you a second chance," he had said. "But the price is that for your next 3 lives, you will have terrible luck. You might live in poverty, or you might be plagued by constant illness. Are you willing to accept that?" In my past life, Olivia and Jerry had used me as their stepping stone to build their bright future. And when they were done, they cast me aside like an old shoe and left me to die in the street. I had paid a terrible price for this one chance at revenge. I wasn't about to waste it. In this life, I would be the one to grind them into the dust. It wasn't long before Jerry heard the news and cornered me in the dorm hallway. "Lucas, listen to me, man," he said, slinging an arm around my shoulder. "Give me the study abroad spot. Once I'm out of the picture, you and Olivia can finally be together. I'm doing you a favor here." He went on, acting as if he were doing me a huge favor by even considering taking the spot. "Jerry, it's not that I don't want to help," I said, putting on a troubled expression. "It's just your grades are." Seeing that I seemed to be considering it, Jerry moved closer, a shrewd look in his eyes. "The final decision isn't made until after finals, right?" he said. "Our final grades count. You can just help me out a little then." I pretended to hesitate for a bit before finally, reluctantly, agreeing to his proposal. He was ecstatic and immediately tried to drag me out for a celebratory drink. I politely declined. He wouldn't be celebrating for long. Over the next few weeks, Olivia reached out to me several times. I gave her short, non-committal replies, just enough to keep her on the hook. I couldn't be bothered with her, but the less I responded, the more persistent she became. It made sense. People like her and Jerry really were a match made in heaven. Jenny was a force of nature. She had the company up and running in no time. Our team included a few other students from different departments, all of them at the top of their respective fields. I was working particularly closely with Jenny, who was an advertising major in charge of our marketing and promotion. She seemed quiet and gentle, but when it came to work, she was incredibly decisive and efficient. She had an uncanny ability to predict market trends. Her project management was flawless, and she could charm any client into submission. Everyone loved working with her. We often worked late into the night together. Whenever I was so exhausted my eyes were bloodshot and my brain felt like mush, she would appear with a snack or a hot coffee. She would just give me a sweet, encouraging smile, her eyes gentle but firm, and it would give me the strength to keep going. With Jenny's drive and the whole team's hard work, our little tech startup quickly made a name for itself. Before long, we had secured a major round of funding. And just like that, it was time for final exams. Jerry must have pulled some strings, because he was seated directly behind me for the first exam. All I had to do was lean to the side, and he would have a clear view of my paper. The bell rang, and the exam started. Half an hour in, he was already getting restless and started kicking the back of my chair. A little while later, seeing that I still wasn't responding, he got more desperate. A crumpled-up ball of paper landed on my desk. Without even turning around, I picked it up and raised my hand. "Professor," I said calmly, "someone just threw this note at me. I think they want me to help them cheat." A wave of whispers immediately rippled through the silent exam hall. The proctor's face hardened. He walked over, took the note from my hand, and glanced at it. "Who threw this?" he demanded. Silence. Jerry sat behind me, his jaw clenched, saying nothing. "All right. Nobody wants to confess?" the proctor said. "Fine. We'll just review the security cameras. We'll find out who it was, and believe me, the punishment will be much worse." His voice boomed through the room. I could feel Jerry tense up behind me, clearly wrestling with what to do. After a long, tense silence, he finally, slowly, got to his feet. "Professor, I'm sorry," he mumbled. "I wasn't thinking straight. It's my first time, and I didn't even actually cheat. Please, just give me a break." He pleaded, his voice barely a whisper. Students all around us looked up, their faces filled with disgust and contempt. The proctor showed no mercy. He snatched Jerry's exam paper off his desk and marched him out of the room. I didn't see Jerry at any of the remaining exams. The university had been cracking down on academic dishonesty lately, and Jerry had just served himself up on a silver platter. I figured that after causing such a scene, he wouldn't be bothering me anytime soon. But I was wrong. As soon as I walked out of my last final, the professor stopped me and escorted me straight to the Office of Student Conduct. The first thing I saw when I walked in was Jerry, leaning against the wall with his arms crossed, a smug, triumphant look on his face. "Lucas Miller," the dean said, his voice sharp. "Jerry Reed has filed a report stating that you offered to help him cheat in exchange for a service fee. Is this true?" The dean stared at me, his eyes sharp and accusatory, as if I were already guilty. "No, sir," I said, my voice steady. "I never took any money from him." "Oh, really?" The dean's skepticism deepened. "Then can you explain this transaction record?" He slid a phone across the desk. I looked at the screen and saw it, clear as day, a record of a $1,000 transfer from Jerry, sent a week ago. For me, that transaction had happened a lifetime ago. I knew it wasn't for cheating, but for the life of me, I couldn't remember why he had sent me the money. The dean's eyes, sharp as a hawk's, were fixed on me. I could feel a cold sweat starting to form on my back. "Just admit it, Lucas," Jerry sneered. "You're the one who came to me saying you were broke and needed seed money for some startup. I only helped you out because I felt sorry for you. Don't act like you don't remember." "Shut up, Jerry. You're lying. I never did anything of the sort." "Watch your tone." Just as the argument was about to boil over, the dean slammed his hand on the desk. "Lucas," he said, his voice dangerously low. "Explain it." I opened my mouth, but no words came out. My face was burning, and all I wanted to do was lunge across the desk and throttle that snake, Jerry. "Sir, I can vouch for Lucas." Just as the tension in the room reached its breaking point, a voice came from the doorway. Jenny pushed the door open, breaking the awkward silence. She walked over to me and put a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "Lucas has been swamped with schoolwork and our new business," she said calmly. "He's just a bit flustered. That $1,000 was from when Jerry needed cash and asked Lucas to do an online transfer for him. The whole team was there when it happened." Her words jolted a memory loose from the distant past. Olivia was always demanding to see Jerry's bank balance, and if he had any money, she'd force him to buy her expensive gifts. Jerry got so sick of it, he started asking people to trade cash for online transfers so she couldn't track his spending. Besides, Jenny added, "Lucas and I have been working on our startup. He's not hurting for money. He would never need to resort to something so low." She finished with a pointed look in Jerry's direction. "Who are you calling low?" Jerry exploded, his composure completely gone. He raised a fist as if to charge at her. The dean grabbed his arm, stopping him. "That's enough, Mr. Reed," the dean roared. "You were caught cheating, and now you're trying to drag another student down with you. It seems to me you're no longer interested in being a student at this university." The dean laid into him, and then waved a hand, dismissing me and Jenny. As the door closed behind us, I could just make out the sound of Jerry, his voice cracking as he begged. Outside the office, Olivia was pacing anxiously. To my surprise, Alex was there with her. As soon as we stepped out, Alex rushed over. "Lucas, man, are you okay?" He looked genuinely worried, and he had unconsciously grabbed my sleeve. "I'm fine, Alex. It's all sorted out." A strange warmth spread through my chest. I lowered my voice to reassure him. Before Alex could say another word, Olivia pushed her way between us, yanking his hand off my arm. "Who do you think you are?" she demanded, her voice shrill. "Why are you acting so familiar with Lucas?" Alex was so taken aback he just stood there, speechless. I stepped in front of Alex, shielding him, and pushed Olivia back. "It's none of your business," I said impatiently. "And in case you've forgotten, your precious boyfriend is still in there, getting reamed out." Olivia stared at me, her face a mask of disbelief, her voice trembling. "How dare you talk to me like that, Lucas? I thought you liked me. If you keep this up, I'm done with you for good." See? She knew all along how I felt about her. In my past life, she treated my heart like her personal plaything, to be crushed whenever she felt like it. A person like her didn't deserve to be liked by anyone. I let out a cold laugh, looking at her like she was something I'd scraped off the bottom of my shoe. Don't flatter yourself, I said, my voice dripping with contempt. The thought of being associated with you makes me sick. You and a piece of trash like Jerry deserve each other. I hope you two have a long, miserable life together. I ignored her hysterical shrieking and grabbed Alex's arm, pulling him away. It wasn't until we were outside the building that I realized I was still holding Jenny's hand. I quickly let go, feeling a little embarrassed. It's okay, she said, her head down. I noticed the tips of her ears were bright red, and she wouldn't meet my eyes. Jenny, are you all right? I asked. Oh, I'm fine, Lucas, she stammered. Hey, are you busy this weekend? I was wondering if I could take you out to dinner. After I agreed, a bright smile spread across her face, and she practically skipped away, her whole demeanor lighter. Alex, who had been quietly watching the whole exchange, finally spoke up. He clicked his tongue. Vow, man. Brothers before, you know. Don't forget who just saved your butt back there. True friends don't need to say it. I shot back with a grin. We just know. We caught each other's eye and burst out laughing. That night, I took all my roommates out for dinner. Everyone except Jerry. Alex, who was pretty drunk by then, threw an arm around my shoulders. Lucas, I always knew it, he slurred happily. You're one of those quiet guys who turns out to be a total rock star when it counts. Keep it up, man. You know it, I said, raising my glass. I'm going to make us all rich. I clinked my glass against his, a real smile on my face. The last, lingering shadows of my past life seemed to dissolve in the warmth of the moment. Just before the semester break, the university sent out an official notice. Jerry Reed was expelled for gross academic misconduct. The news spread like wildfire through every group chat on campus. His parents drove in from out of town that same night and dragged him out of the dorm. You could hear him screaming and cursing all the way down the hall. He had finally become famous on campus, just not in the way he'd wanted. Without me paving the way for him to study abroad, and with his limited abilities, he was probably destined to be stuck in his small hometown for the rest of his life. And as for Olivia, her deep, undying love for Jerry turned out to be not so deep after all. She scrubbed him from her life completely, blocking him on every platform. She even posted a status on Facebook claiming they had broken up ages ago and she had nothing to do with him. Watching it all unfold, I couldn't help but laugh at the irony. The great first love she claimed she could never get over tossed aside the second he became inconvenient. In my past life, she'd mooned over this first love for the entire decade we were married. But faced with one little setback, he'd instantly become nothing more than an annoying gnat to be swatted away. Their so-called true love was a pathetic joke. Even though I'd been brutally blunt with her, Olivia didn't give up. She must have still been clinging to the memory of how I used to dote on her, unwilling to let go of a decent catch like me so easily. She started bombarding me with iMessages every day, filled with sappy, inspirational quotes she'd clearly copied from somewhere online. Each one was more cringeworthy than the last, all in a pathetic attempt to win me back. But my days were consumed by classes and the startup. What little free time I had was spent with Jenny, either working on projects or grabbing a meal. I had no time for Olivia's games. Eventually, I just blocked her number. Out of sight, out of mind. Graduation day arrived in a blur. While my classmates were busy sending out resumes and scrambling for interviews, I was already the vice president of Jenny's company. Our company was much bigger this time around. We had caught the tech boom at just the right time and were growing at an incredible rate. We were already a well-known name in the local tech scene and were planning to open a second office. My relationship with Jenny had also blossomed. We weren't just a couple. We were partners in every sense of the word, trusting each other completely as we built our future together. Being with her showed me what a real, healthy relationship was supposed to feel like. The next time I saw Olivia, it was in the lobby of our office building. I have to admit, I was a little surprised to see her there. She was perfectly made up, wearing a short skirt and high heels, not a single hair out of place. She had clearly put a lot of effort into her appearance. She saw me too, and her face immediately twisted into a familiar expression of smug superiority. Well, look what the cat dragged in. Lucas Miller, are you here for an interview too? I gave her a passing glance, too disgusted to even bother replying. She took my silence as confirmation and tilted her chin up, looking down her nose at me. You know, she said, her voice dripping with condescension, my new boyfriend is a department manager here. He's pretty important. If you beg me, I might be able to get him to pull a few strings for you. I actually laughed and held up a hand to stop her. I don't think he has that kind of authority, I said, but thanks for the offer. Her face flushed as if I'd slapped her, and she stepped in front of me, blocking my way. Who do you think you are? Acting so high and mighty, she spat. So you got slightly better grades than me in college. Big deal. Now you can't even find a real job. You're a loser, Lucas, and I wouldn't waste my time on you if you were the last man on earth. She was shouting, and her voice echoed through the lobby, causing several people to turn and stare. A man in a sharp suit came rushing over, his face pale with panic. He gave me a slight, apologetic bow. I'm so sorry, Mr. Miller, he stammered. My girlfriend, she doesn't know what she's saying. Please, don't pay her any mind. When Olivia saw him, she straightened up, assuming he was there to defend her. But when she heard what he said next, her smug expression crumbled. What? What did you just call him? This is Lucas Miller, the man hissed. He's the vice president of the company. What are you doing making a scene like this? You're embarrassing me. Now go home. He reprimanded her in a harsh whisper. The color drained from her face, then came rushing back in a furious blush. It was quite a sight. I gave the man a small, polite nod. Your girlfriend seems a little unstable, I said with a faint smile. If she's not feeling well, perhaps it's best she stays home. We wouldn't want her to frighten anyone. The shock must have been too much for her. After that day, Olivia vanished from my life completely. A few months later, I heard she was engaged to that department manager. I was just starting to wonder if I'd let her off too easily when Jenny poked her head into my office to call me for a meeting. Looking into her kind, gentle eyes, a sense of peace settled over me. Maybe the point of this second chance wasn't about holding on a hatred. Maybe it was about building a good life for myself. That was the real victory. The next few years were a happy blur of work and wedding planning with Jenny. I also started working out regularly, and I was in better shape than I'd ever been in my previous life. The name Olivia had become a distant, faded memory. But karma has a way of working itself out. You don't have to force it. Some people are perfectly capable of destroying their own lives without any help from you. It all started the day Jerry came back to town. His family owned a mining company, and they had put him to work in the mines. He couldn't handle the hard labor, so he stole a bunch of money from his parents and ran back to the city. And naturally, he and Olivia picked up right where they left off. Olivia, who was in the middle of planning her own wedding, fell for him all over again. She started using the money her fiancé's family had given them for the wedding to support Jerry, and she was sneaking out to meet him every week. But you can't keep a secret like that forever. Eventually, her fiancé's family caught them in the act. They recorded the whole sordid affair from multiple angles and posted the videos online that same night. It instantly became the #1 trending topic in the city. Olivia's reputation was destroyed. The project manager, the poor guy she'd been engaged to, was devastated. He resigned from our company, saying he needed some time to himself. I completely understood how he felt. I even felt a little guilty for not warning him about what kind of person Olivia really was. I made sure our HR department gave him a generous severance package. One evening, as Jenny and I were leaving the office, Olivia appeared out of nowhere. She threw herself on the ground in front of me, looking completely unhinged. "Lucas, it's me," she shrieked. "I'm your wife. I'm the one you're supposed to marry, not her." Jenny squeezed my hand, her eyes wide with alarm. I squeezed back, giving her a reassuring look. Then I shoved Olivia away from me. "What is this nonsense?" I said sharply. "You're acting insane. If you don't leave right now, I'm calling the police." She stumbled and fell, but then immediately started crawling towards me again. "Honey, don't be mad," she whimpered. "I'll be good, I promise. I'll do anything you say. Just forgive me, please." A sharp crack echoed in the quiet evening. A hand had struck her across the face. It was Jerry. "Olivia, snap out of it," he yelled. "Do you really think Lucas wants anything to do with you now? Come on, let's go." If you just give me a son, my parents will have to forgive me. Olivia was stunned for a moment. Then, a look of pure, venomous hatred filled her eyes. You, she screamed. This is all your fault. You're the one who seduced me, you bastard. You ruined my life. I hope you die. She lunged at him, grabbing a handful of his hair and yanking his head down. They fell to the ground, a tangled mess of flailing limbs, scratching and clawing at each other. Their struggle carried them out into the street. It was a busy road, and the driver of an oncoming car didn't have time to stop. He plowed right into them. There was nothing left but a mangled, bloody heap on the pavement. Jenny gasped and buried her face in my chest, too terrified to look. I stood there, speechless, a strange mix of emotions churning inside me. In this life, the two people responsible for my death had met the exact same fate. That night, I had a dream about what happened in my past life after I died. Not long after I died, Olivia rushed through my funeral arrangements. She didn't even wait a month before she eagerly married Jerry. At their wedding, she wept with joy, telling all the guests how her greatest wish had finally come true. But after they were married, she soon discovered that not every man was willing to cook and clean and wait on her hand and foot like I had, especially not a chauvinist like Jerry. He forbade her from going out to business meetings, saying a woman's place was in the home, raising children. He told her to stop making a public spectacle of herself. Little by little, he pushed her out of the company, seizing complete control for himself. His mother was even worse. She criticized everything Olivia did, constantly hounded her about producing a grandson, and called her a barren hen. Olivia had always been spoiled. After being pampered by me for so many years, she couldn't handle the abuse. She cried and fought with Jerry constantly. Jerry, figuring they were already married, dropped the nice guy act and started hitting her. They were constantly in and out of the local police station, but they were always sent away with a dismissive, "This is a domestic dispute. You need to sort it out yourselves." Then one night, Jerry came home drunk and went too far. Olivia's head struck the sharp corner of a table, and she was killed instantly. Olivia was dead. Jerry went to prison. That was how their story ended in my past life. So, it turned out that without me, they couldn't have the fantasy life they'd always dreamed of. Seeing the disastrous end they came to, I let out a long, slow breath. "Looks like you're doing pretty well for yourself this time around, pal." A familiar voice suddenly whispered in my ear. I turned to see the same pale, faced man from before. "Thank you," I said, turning to him, my voice filled with genuine gratitude. "I have a good life now." "Don't thank me," he said. "It was a fair trade. And don't forget, your next few lives are going to be miserable. Are you sure you don't regret it?" He watched me, a curious glint in his eyes. "I don't regret a thing," I answered without a moment's hesitation. "Right now, all I want is to live this life to the fullest." The man nodded, and his form dissolved into a wisp of smoke and vanished. And with that, I startled awake. Beside me, Jenny stirred in her sleep, as if sensing my unease. She rolled over and wrapped her arms around me, pulling me close. I watched the gentle rise and fall of her chest, a soft smile spreading across my face. I felt a sense of peace I had never known before. The grudges of the past had finally settled. I was finally living the happy life that was always meant to be mine. There would still be challenges ahead, I knew. There would be storms to weather. But as long as I had someone who truly loved me by my side, I knew that no matter how deep the darkness, we could always find a way to let the light in his first life. He was a devoted house husband, killed in a car crash while buying late-night snacks for his ungrateful wife, Olivia, and her first love, Jerry. As a ghost, he watched Olivia show relief at his death, lamenting that she only married a waste like him because Jerry had gone abroad. Given a second chance at life from his college days, he vows revenge. This time, he coldly rejects Olivia's manipulations, exposes Jerry's academic cheating, which gets him expelled, and refuses to sacrifice a prestigious study abroad opportunity for him. Instead of being their stepping stone, he partners with capable classmates, builds a successful tech company, and finds true love with a kind and supportive colleague. Left to their own devices, Olivia and Jerry's toxic great love self-destructs, They become embroiled in a public scandal and are ultimately killed together in a street fight, run over by a car in an ironic twist of fate. In the end, he realizes his greatest revenge was not just their downfall, but building a happy, successful life of his own, proving their supposed love was nothing without him to exploit.